Let me start over. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you've all had a great start to your day. If not, the session will make up for it. My name is Akhila. I'm an assistant manager at Unilever for logistics product. I've been with Unilever for over 6 years now, primarily focusing on Europe market, delivering key projects and landing new digital capabilities in the space of transportation. I have with me today my co-presenter Satyam, and together we are excited to share our journey of Spotlight with all of you, a solution that we implemented for Europe Unilever. Basically, in simple terms, I make sure that your shampoo does not run out before your next selfie. I'll hand over to Satyam before we dive into the details of the project.
Hi everyone. Am I audible? Am I audible? Yeah. So as Akhila mentioned, I'm Satyam. I have been working with Birlasoft for last few years, and I have around 13 years of expertise in logistic planning and all OTM as well as other applications which are connected to OTM. So, yep, we have developed a solution along with Unilever where we are trying to, reduce cost for spot. So typically, you have contracted lanes, right, where it's almost the same cost which you typically procure and what you negotiate. But in general, for spot, there is a lot of like dynamic ranges. You can't certainly say what's supposed to be the right cost for a certain lane, right? And that too at the last moment when you really want to execute your logistic and you want to have a carrier and you don't know what is my benchmark. So we have tried in developing a solution which has not only automated the allocating spot process as well as it has also given us some benchmarking. So that way, even for the spot, we have enabled our benchmarking process, and that gives us a lot of visibility and savings as well. So in the coming slides, we will be talking more on to that. Please, Akhila.
Thanks, Satyam. Moving on to today's agenda, here's what we have. First, we'll give a quick overview of Unilever and Birlasoft. Then we'll walk you through our journey of Project Spotlight, describing why we have undertaken it, how we have executed it, and the business outcomes that we have achieved by implementing this project. Unilever was established over 100 years ago, and we are one of the world's largest consumer goods companies. We have a legacy of over 100 years, like I just mentioned. Unilever, we are known for our great brands, and we believe that doing business the right way drives superior performance. Our products are sold in over 190 countries, and on any given day, our products, basically people use our products, and we have a population of 3.4 billion who use our products on a daily basis. That's approximately 42% of the entire world's population. We have a workforce of 125K employees, with 55% of them being women, and 87% of our employees feel proud to work for Unilever. Financially, Unilever reported a turnover of around 60.8 billion in 2024, with an underlying sales growth of 4.2%. We have a portfolio of over 400 brands, many of which you will recognize and may even use daily. Over 75% of our turnover comes from 30 power brands, and we roughly invest about 9.4 billion euros on brand and marketing investment. While we continue to grow, sustainability is at the heart of our business model. We implemented OTM over a decade ago by consolidating planning across 11 control towers. Today, these 11 control towers plan all our transportation movements across our markets globally. So when you step out to go to a store, pick any of your favorite items, we would want to ensure that it's always supplied to you. That's where supply chain comes in, and we as supply chain platform manage the entire digital backbone that supports processes and applications for procuring raw and pack materials, manufacturing. We are the digital backbone that supports entire applications and processes for procuring, manufacturing, warehousing, and then transportation. Unilever supply chain is vast, spanning 5 landscapes with 5 different OTM boxes, namely North America, Latin America, AAR, Asia, Africa, Russia, Fusion, and then Europe. OTM in Unilever is used in more than 90 plus countries, and we have a user database of over 5,000 people using OTM. Our trucks transport 13,700 loads daily, which accounts to 5 million loads annually across all these landscapes. We have 4 main transport modes that are commonly used. First one being TL, full truckload. Second one, LTL, less than truckload. Third one, rail, and fourth one, ocean. From January 2025, our operating model is now divided into 5 main categories: beauty and well-being, home care, nutrition or foods. We have just renamed nutrition to foods. And the last one is personal care. Below is a geographical representation of the landscapes where we are spread. This is what it is. There's one more fact that our trucks travel a distance of 1.3 billion kilometers per year, which is almost 4 return trips to the sun and back to the earth every year. By the end of this presentation, even before we finish off, our trucks, 285 trucks and 3 ships would have already began their Unilever journey. That's how vast we are. I'll hand it over to Satyam to give an overview of Birlasoft.
Yep. So I wouldn't take much time on that. I mean, I think everybody knows about Birlasoft already, at least in this room. So a quick glance on our Oracle practice. Mostly we have around 350 practitioners which are working for SCM. We have 4 verticals, we have 4 horizontals. We are providing services in all sort of supply chain modules, typically TMS, warehousing, and anything. And recently we have also, working on the AI side of it. So we are trying to build solutions which could be, built around the real needs on how TMS typically needs it. And we could directly plug it to anybody who is using a TMS solution, and we can just plug that AI solution to that. So that much, because recent is the AI era, so we can definitely have that. And then we can just come to the project straight away.
Before this, today, if you have all brushed your teeth or have washed your hair, you've already interacted with us. Congratulations on that note. So let's dive into the main focus area of today, which is Project Spotlight. Earlier, even before implementing this project, the spot procurement for Unilever was entirely manual. Planners used to open spots manually for 365 days and award shipments to carriers, which was again a manual task. Now, what went wrong in this process and the reason behind implementing this project? One, it was a very time-consuming activity because planners had to check which shipments had to go on spot and wait for carriers to bid, and then finally award shipments to carriers. Second thing is, sometimes what we have noticed is that while planners were awarding shipments to carriers, they awarded the shipments to carriers of their choice. Sometimes it wasn't even the least bid carrier. This was affecting other carriers because they started being dissatisfied and unhappy about the services that they were providing. And it also, at times, led to contract terminations. To overcome all these factors, we have implemented Spotlight. And this is how it goes. Spotlight is an initiative where we have automated and implemented a reverse Dutch auction solution through a pass service. What this does is this enables carriers to accept pre-filled costs, again the costs generated by historical benchmarks, thus eliminating the carriers for manual bid selection and cost validation. The Dutch auction term originates from Netherlands. I believe back in 17th century, there was a flower market and there was some auction that was going on. Typically, the Dutch auction model works by an auctioneer raising the price of the bids and then progressively decreasing it. In logistics, we have flipped the concept, and hence it's called reverse Dutch auction here. So in reverse Dutch auction, what we have done is we just increase the prices of the shipment costs at fixed intervals with defined prices. Carriers can simply accept the price that we show them, a buy now price, and they cannot bid their own prices. This is what we have done in Spotlight. Now, the key objectives of this project are easily trackable KPIs. Now that we have implemented proper automation, the spot opening and closure is automated, and hence the KPIs can be traced and tracked easily. Second one, definitely cost savings, because here carriers are bound to choose the buy now price that we display to them. Instead, they could bid their own prices. Since we have automated the entire solution, with automation comes a lot of other aspects as well. A lot of benefits come with automation. So there are error-prone processes now. We have also automated the tendering process. Earlier, the tendering, like I said in my previous conversation, that the tendering was manual last time, where people used to award the shipments to the carriers of their choice. Now, since it is automated, we now believe that it is being sent to the least bid carrier. We also have benchmarking spot cost generations, which Satyam will just talk about how we are benchmarking those spot, because there's an entire process behind how that cost is selected and what goes behind that cost generation process.
Okay. Yep. So let me just take one step backward. Typically, we always call spot as a last choice. So in any transportation planning, and that's typically the concept, you would always want to prefer the contracted carriers because they gives you a negotiated rate, they gives you a commitment, and you can always trust that that's the rate which is coming from the procurement, and you can believe that I'm not losing any of a benefit which could have happened. So you would try to get the best rate for that lane. However, spots in itself, like the name says, they are the rates which are either negotiated on a phone with the carrier, or if you're giving a system access to the carrier, he would try and put a cost as per his own will. Now, if that is coming in, you do not have any references to those costs, you will typically be accepting one of the least of them. Reason behind, you will have to execute the transportation. Second of it, because these transportations are very urgent also, so sometimes carriers try to take undue advantage in a way that they know that you have to move tomorrow and you would have to put a cost today. So eventually they also try and figure out a pattern that on these lanes, if I'm putting this cost, this is something which will be accepted by Unilever or anybody who is running a supply chain. So that is where it was a need. And the third part of it, and which is not the topic also, I'll just take one step backward. There was no consolidation as such in spot. What happens, you have an order and you do not have a contract, you typically just manually plan it and you put it on a spot for the least bid to happen. Now here what we have done, so prior to this particular project, we have developed a mechanism where we have actually automated the whole spot opening and in fact the shipment planning process for non-contracted lanes. So there we have achieved a benefit, something like consolidation, which is typically doesn't exist in non-contracted lanes. Also we could automate this whole planning, which saved a lot of time from our planners, and they don't have to sit on the screen and try and figure out which orders to be planned manually. Now, once that planning is done, the next step was to figure out what are the best ways of, getting the best cost for these shipments, right? So, like Akhila already mentioned, what's reverse Dutch auction? I wouldn't go into the definition now, but like she mentioned, we basically here restricting carriers from putting a cost. So here what we are doing, we are benchmarking, and how we are doing, I'll explain in the coming slide. But we are already having a optimized cost for each of the location combination or country combination where our shipment is moving. Now, because it's Europe, the geographies are very small for the countries, and typically inter-country movement is not very rare. So we do have identified what are the cost parameters which should be there for each movement. We have also identified what should be the right combinations. For example, since this is spot and we do not know what is the right route for that particular shipment. So we have analyzed all the historical data, created some placeholders, and created like unique routes where we are storing that only this is executable route. So my shipment cannot go like random. It has to follow either of the existing route. That will make sure the feasibility of that route is right. And the third, I'm also putting like optimum prices generated by different KPIs. One of that is like we are having country to country prices. We are analyzing the previous shipments and getting the right prices for each of the lane. That way we are storing what is the optimum price for each of the new build shipment. And then what we are doing, when we are going into reverse Dutch auction, we are trying to put a number to the carrier in the screen, and he is simply supposed to accept it or not accept it. I mean, it's carrier's choice. But here we are not putting any option of them to bid it. So obviously not every time you are going to get a awarding out of it. Maybe sometimes the carrier will not feel like accepting it. None of them actually. So then after some time, and this is again automated, we keep it for some time. Once that time is over, what we are doing, we are automatically enabling a spot this time, a typical spot, how it's looked to the OTM system or any system, where we are asking the carriers to put a cost or a bid. But what's different here is that this again, like I'm mentioning, ceiling control spot, I'm asking the carriers to put a price, but I'm putting a ceiling on that shipment. So let's say I'm putting a ceiling of 100 euros on that shipment. If at all there is a carrier who is placing a bid within that range, he would be awarded. He would be going through the awarding process. But if at all anybody putting a bid over to that, and even if that is the least bid of that shipment, it will not be awarding it. So that way, what I'm doing, I'm making sure that my least bid is not over my optimum price. So there also I'm making sure that I'm not overspending on that shipment. If at all, even with this, I'm not able to get a certain closer, then the last option, which typically is the spot process, I'm sending it to manual spot, where a spot is open for unlimited time and a planner is supposed to negotiate it with the carrier and close it. So eventually in either of that, and mostly with the first or second, you get a closer to the shipment, whereas the rare cases which goes to the third option, that is typical process, carrier and planner connect, and then they close the shipment. So this is typically our cost selection. Okay, so I've already explained the process briefly, so I may not take much time. I'll just tell how this whole thing works actually. So like I mentioned, the shipment is created, and this creation is again automated. The consolidation and everything is done, right? Once that is done, we are selecting what is the optimum price for that shipment. So that like I said, we have multiple ways to figure it out. We have country to country combinations where we are storing how much should be the per kilometer or per truck, depending upon what is the truck, what is the size, what service it requires. We are storing what type of costing it should need. And that again have a reference of the historical data. So once a shipment is built on a certain lane, it's awarded, we know what is the right price. And that we take over 2 years data so that we benchmark it to a certain optimum price. Even if none of this is available, we put some fail-safes that country to country basic checks are there and those prices are updated, so that in every case you have at least the optimum price of a shipment, right? Now once this is done, we are giving options to the planners to make sure they check if this shipment is executable, if that is looking fine, the dates are right, they approve it. Once they approve it, it goes to RDA. So this RDA is not just like a one-shot thing. So what happened, let's say our optimum price is 100 euro. We keep iterations of RDA. So let's say first time we send it to 90 euro as optimum price. Our first time float will happen, and I'll just come to that screen maybe. If you see the first part, this is how it looks like. They see a price and there is no option of bidding it. They just accept it. They click on buy now. If they agree, if they don't, they just don't do anything. So that way, first iteration we put it on RDA. Let's say in the first iteration, and that's going for 20 minutes or so. If nobody accepted, we again have another RDA opening, this time with slightly higher price. Maybe let's say 110 euro. And this way we can have n number of RDA iterations. Again, that number is something we can store in our system, and we have stored in our system. So let's say after 3 RDA processes, we identified that I'm not able to get a correct awardee for that shipment. Automatically system will go to the ceiling control spot process. It will check that all the iterations are exhausted, and now it should go to the ceiling control spot. This time, I've already mentioned that instead of me telling the carrier that this is a particular price, we will allow them to put a bid. Only difference, they will have to put it within a certain ceiling. Again, it's the same concept. It will go for n number of iterations, if at all, and it will keep on increasing. So let's say the ceiling for the first iteration was 130. Second onwards, it could go to 170 or 200. Eventually, you are trying to increase it by a certain extent so that within that range, if something is coming, again, we have certain iterations if that's exhausted, and we do not award, which doesn't typically happen. It typically is the case that we get somebody. If at all nothing happen as a fail proof, we send it to a final one where we keep the spot open. A planner is supposed to come and close it. So this is how the whole process looks like. Yep. Sorry. Okay. So what is that? So let's say I have already explained. So this is the same process, so I might not go into that again. Benefits. Please, Akhila.
So the benefits are already in line with the key objectives that we have already spoken about. Cost reduction, obviously, because here we are asking carriers to choose the buy now price and not propose their own prices. Hence, there are significant cost savings for Unilever. Automation, again, that's something which we talked about earlier. We have completely automated the spot process here, right from the spot opening to spot closure. The third one is efficient reporting. So what happens is, in case there's no winner at all by the end of RD iterations or by the end of the ceiling control iterations, when a planner has to manually award some shipment to carriers, they have to enter a reason code behind it, calling out why they are doing this manually. So now with that, it's also efficient for anybody who wants to look at why the planner has awarded it manually and why not the system has picked it automatically. Third one, there is definitely manual effort reduction because everything is automated. Basically now planners have time for coffee or cigarette breaks, maybe even for lunch. These are just some snapshots that we have captured from different stages of our project. The first one is a pass interface. Like we just said that RDA is a concept that works on a pass tool. So this page appears for carriers and carriers cannot bid their amount. That rectangular box which you see, that's just disabled for them. Rather, there's a buy now price and carriers can select on that buy now price and submit it to Unilever. Before they even go ahead and submit that, there's a carrier acknowledgement page, the last one, where they have to claim that they are accepting the pickup and delivery dates on that specified date. Because a lot of times what happens is they are delayed most of the times when they come to the yard or to the warehouse, and they keep claiming that they haven't checked the shipment dates, or rather they did not have the visibility of it. So we are specifically providing this disclaimer where they acknowledge and say that, okay, we have gone through the pickup and delivery dates and that we are fine to pick that shipment, and hence that prompt is provided to them. Now moving on to the second screenshot, these are just the different color codings that we have given for RDA and regular spot iterations. Whenever the RDA iterations go on, it appears in red. And if there's no winner at all by the end of RDA iterations, it goes to the regular spot and the indicator turns to green. This is just identifiers to planners or to line managers or to supervisors to ensure that in what phase the spot is in. The second one, I'm not sure if you're able to view it, but it is again master data that we have set in our system. These RD iterations and spot iterations, they are configurable, they are customizable. So you can keep any number of RD iterations and any number of spot iterations. So that is defined in the second screenshot, which basically may not be visible, but that's what it says. I think that concludes our presentation. We are happy to take any questions you may have.